In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at the best exercises to help fix lordosis. But to help us understand what those best exercises are and why we're choosing them, we're going to quickly look at some anatomy. So we're going to start off with some bones, some joints, and then we're going to look at some muscles, and then we're going to finally look at a fascial line as well. So if we start over on this diagram here, the main areas of the body that we're focusing on is the pelvis and the lumbar spine. Now, when it comes to lordosis, it's an exaggerated curve of the lumbar spine, and what will tend to come with that is an anterior pelvic tilt where the front of the pelvis gets pulled down and the back, in a sense, gets lifted up, which is again going to contribute to the excessive curvature of the lumbar spine. Now, what muscles are involved in that? Well, with regards to the excessive curve of the spine, it's the psoas muscle, which comes all the way down through here and then joins on to the inside of the femur, which is sort of down here. Now, why it creates the exaggerated curve of the lumbar spine is because it joins on to T12, L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5. So it's all 5 lumbar vertebrae. So if this muscle becomes tight, it's going to pull on all of them and create an exaggerated curve. When it comes to the anterior pelvic tilt element or part of it, we're talking about many other muscles. So we've got the iliacus, which is on the inside of the pelvis, which you can see just here. And again, that joins on to a similar area to the psoas. What we've then got coming off the front of the pelvis is sartorius or sartorus, which goes all the way then down to the knee. We've got rectus femoris, which again comes off a similar area, comes right down the front of the leg, joins into the kneecap, and then onto the front of the knee or the front of the tibia here. We've got TFL, tensor fasciae lata, in here, but we've also got the adductor group on the inside of the leg. So all of these muscles are contributing to lordosis. So we need to start thinking about this area of the body and not just the lumbar spine. And then the final part is the fascial line. So what we would talk about with the fascial line is basically the material that makes all of these muscles one unit or one part of the body, and it's known as the deep front line. And as you can see here, it goes from the inside of the knee that I've talked about all the way up through the adductor group. You've then got psoas, you've got iliacus, all involved in this area. This is the adductor group coming all the way up. You've then got psoas going all the way up through. So you can start to see the area of the body that we need to be focusing on from a bony landmark and a skeletal part. You've then got muscular, and then you've got bringing everything together with the fascial line. So when it comes to correcting these postures, what we need to be doing is, one, getting out of an anterior pelvic tilt and not going as far as a posterior pelvic tilt. What we need is a level pelvis and a natural curve of the lumbar spine. So as I've described, the anterior pelvic tilt is where the front of the pelvis goes down and the back goes up, and the posterior pelvic tilt is essentially the opposite. So we need that goes down and the front goes up. What we want to create is a level pelvis, and the type of exercises that I'm going to be talking about are going to help us do that. Once we've got to that point in which we can do that, then we can start progressing onto other exercises, because what we need to be able to do is teach our body to be in that position. First of all, we need to understand it consciously ourselves, then we need to be able to put ourselves in it with regards to the exercises that we're doing, and then progress those exercises and also take it out into everyday life. And the exercises that we're talking about are half kneeling exercises. Now, what that basically means is being on one knee. So you can see me here, I'm just on one knee, and essentially all I'm doing is I'm balancing here. But why these exercises are important, because as I've mentioned, we want to be creating a level pelvis, because our spine is exaggerated and our pelvis is essentially, front is pointing or being pulled downwards and the back is being pulled upwards, as I've mentioned. What we want to do is we want to bring the front up and the back down, so it then becomes less of a curve, but the pelvis becomes much more level, although that's not a very good drawing. Now, what do these exercises give us? Is it creates a torsional force that oppose each other. So what does that mean? Well, if I go into this position here, which is essentially a kneeling posture, what can happen is I can go into an exaggerated curve here and my pelvis can be pulled down because of the muscles here. But what I'm doing when I go into this position here, when I bring my knee up, I'm mechanically holding my pelvis in a much more neutral position, because this leg here is blocking the front of the pelvis from being pulled down. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to learn this position of the spine, and I'm able to learn this position of the pelvis. So what we would do is when we go to a 12-week program, for example, and if you go to the link in the description, you can go through to my 12-week online program, and you can get essentially a program which teaches you this. So what we are doing, we are using a selection of exercises to open out the hips so we can move them, but we are also looking to loosen muscles, and also using half kneeling exercises to hold the pelvis in position so we can learn that position. Because as I've mentioned, tall kneeling and standing can increase your chance of extension, as you can see very slightly here in this small picture. So when we come into this position, we've got more of a tendency for our pelvis to point down. But if I was to bring a leg up at the front and stand on one leg with my leg up like that, it's going to mechanically, because of the position of my leg, it's going to pull the pelvis into position and it's going to neutralize the spine. What I can then do is I can then start to use my glutes and my abdominals to start holding my pelvis and spine in position. Once I've got to that stage, what I can then start doing is I can then come down onto both knees or go up into a standing position. And again, I can use my stomach and my glutes to hold my pelvis into position. So what we're not trying to do is throw you in at the deep end and make things hard for you. At the start, we want to make them as easy as possible for you to be in the position. And that's what half kneeling exercises can do because of the torsional force that's created by the leg being up or the knee being up at the front. So if we can create that position at the start, we can then start using planks and side planks to activate the right muscles, activate the glutes with bridges and things like that. So we can use those exercises for that purpose, but we can then start using these half kneeling exercises for this purpose of being able to get into position and activate those muscles as well. So when it comes to the best exercises for fixing lordosis, we've got to include half kneeling exercises along with isometric exercises like bridges, like planks, like bird dogs. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's given you a better insight into exercises to choose when you're trying to overcome or correct lordosis. Again, if you want to skip a few of those steps and just get straight into a lordosis specific 12-week program, just go to the link in the description and enroll today. So many thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you. My name is Chris from Chris for Whole Training. I will speak to you in the next tutorial.